Good afternoon and welcome to Conversations on Showing Up for Kids. My name is Tim Markle. I'm the Director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs out of the Waisman Center. I would like to remind people that maybe are on the call in the meeting today that I am not a doctor, I am not a lawyer, I have no real specialty. We're just having a conversation here. Please do not take this as medical advice or legal advice, anything that you might hear. Also a reminder that we are recording this conversation, and so we try to refrain from using any identifiable personal information, especially health information, because we all know that once it's out there on the net, it is out there forever, and there's nothing you can do about it. Today, I am so excited to talk about parent supports and parents supporting other parents. And so to have this conversation today, I brought in my friend and my colleague, Robin Mathea, who's with an organization in Wisconsin, but she's so much more, parent to parent in Wisconsin. And so, Robin, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how you got interested in this whole area of parents supporting other parents, the area of parent supports.
You know, parent support's been around for a really long time. We started back in the days of, when we all went to church or when we were all sitting on our porch and families could chat with each other, and that parent support just happened organically, but it doesn't happen as much because of, we're all busy. We're usually two family households working, or we have now technology that really kind of keeps us away from the old time of sitting around the kitchen table with your friends and talking. So I started this program as a pilot program back in the early 2000s when I was affiliated with the Northern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs. There are 5 in our state, and you can find them on the web and connect with the center that serves your region. But for me, it was my job as the parent coordinator at the regional center to figure out what parent support would be. So because we lived in the northern part of the state, for me, parent support started as a pilot in a small county. And the state really liked the idea of parent-to-parent support. It was a national model. There was research out there. It's based on evidence. The state that funds our programs, the regional centers and parent-to-parent and our other colleagues, thought it was a great program and started funding the research of how we would develop this as a statewide program for Wisconsin. And we developed a model for our state, and we started in 2004 doing some trainings and some early matches, and then in 2005 we applied for our state grant and received a 5-year refundable cycle. But even before that, Tim, as you know, I share my story often. My journey in parent-to-parent support started with the birth of my children, my journey was one of a kiddo that was a fussy baby in the very beginning. She cried 12 hours a day, and I did everything I could to get her regulated and sleeping, but she just didn't mellow. So my doctor said it was colic, and when Lauren was about 4 months old, I found a La Leche League in a small town where I lived up north, and I called them up and said, I really want to come to your meeting, but I have a baby and she cries all the time. And they said, that's okay, we'll pass her around. So I went to that meeting, and Lauren was nearly 4 months old, and at that point in the journey, usually babies start to self-regulate a little bit better. Well, Lauren wasn't at that point. So we sat around, a bunch of us breastfeeding moms, and when the meeting was over, I turned to the leader of the group who was sitting next to me, and I said, Lauren's a fussy baby, and the pediatrician says she's got colic, but she's 4 months old and it's just not starting to ease up.
Yeah.
And at that point, the mom turned to me and said, let me tell you about my son. And for me, Tim, that was the first time that anybody had shared with me that there were other children, that there were other mothers who had gone through a similar journey that I was going through. She shared resources with me. She shared books, really talked about temperament. And it was the first time that I could reflect and say, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't, my daughter came this way, she wasn't broken. That
Right.
I really blossomed into knowing that it was really my job to be the best parent I could be, to help Lauren be the best she could be as she maneuvers through life with her unique biology. So that's how I first got into knowing that parent support changed the trajectory of my life. I at that point became a person who's thought, I can do this. I know somebody else who has. I've got some resources now. I know I can move forward. So that parent support mattered so much to me. I knew that when I went back into the working arena, I couldn't go back into the business field. I really wanted to work with families who had children that are different than typical, that are beyond typical. So that's the beginning of my journey.
That reminds me of a couple of thoughts. One is I'm struck that it is possibly easier for parents these days, at the same time that it's much harder for parents these days who have children and youth with special health care needs. I reflect back on what you said about the whole community support and neighborhood support. And, I grew up constantly around cousins and their aunts and uncles. And there was this familial bubble that took care of me and accepted me no matter what. I was part of this family. I belong. And as we got more mobile, people moved around more, that dynamic has changed. So we don't have that direct foundation. A lot of people don't have that direct foundation with family to help them in their journey. And that also is where some of the wisdom might have come from aunts and uncles and cousins who have seen differences in life. And so in some ways, I think it's a little bit harder because I find families are a little more isolated than they used to be.
Right.
On the other hand, we have this really bizarre thing called the internet, where you can find anything you want to find, even if you don't really want to find it. It's there, and you're going to see. There's information out there, and there's misinformation out there. But there's now this place where you can go if you have questions that we are now used to it. Didn't used to be that way. You used to have questions about my kid. You had to go to your pediatrician or you went to your grandma.
Right.
So it's better, or is it better? It just strikes me as a really strange dynamic. In your story of, it was just that one person who said, let me tell you my story of my son. Such a great entry into the world.
It made all the difference in the world. Yep, it made all, and you bring up a good point. We do have access to the internet, and there's good information out there and bad information, and there's chat rooms. But what happens with parent to parent is we have a database of trained support parents. So they've gone through our trainings were 6 hours long when we met face to face. They've become abbreviated as a virtual training. But those parents feel like they're ready to give back and to support another parent who has a similar journey. So the really cool thing about the program is that we make that one-to-one connection with another parent who has a similar journey. And because I've spent time getting to know the trained support parents in the database, I can sometimes make that match based on how I think their personalities will fit together. And it's telephone support. So it's another person that you can talk to and not just text on the internet and you really don't have a foundation of who they really are. It's a parent to parent is a formal matching program as opposed to informal. So we really take those matches seriously, and we do follow up with everybody who receives a match just to make sure it was the best fit for them, and that they really feel like that they're glad that they got connected. And if it was, we don't always get it right. If it wasn't the right fit, we will make a new match for them to get them connected in the best way we can. So, and you know, that opens a door to the parent who is the support parent, all of the support that
Yes.
they found over time and all of the resources they found over time. And all of our support parents are trained that not to be the resource guru. While it's wonderful to share the things that we found have worked for us, we train them really to get back, if the parent has questions about resources, to get them back in touch with the experts, and that would be the regional center in their area. So it's kind of this nice wraparound and support for families who are looking to connect with that other person that has that experience.
And let's talk a little bit more about the ins and the outs of the parent-parent program, because as a regional center director, I totally love it. And in the southern region, I have, and most of the regions are like this as well, is we have this sort of center, our physical presence, and we're really good with our physical presence. So I'm in Madison, Dane County. There are parent support groups. There are a number of options. But then I also have families that are down in Greene and Lafayette and Grant, where what's available in Dane isn't there. And in Dane County, if you have a child with special health care needs and they're going to a public school, chances are there's going to be another child with special health care needs in that public school.
Right.
So there's going to be an established special education program. There may be a parents group. They've been there, done that. In our rural counties, with some of the special health care needs, parents could feel very alone with that child with special needs, as they don't have that natural ability to interact.
Right.
And so I just think that connection that you talked about is so important. Can you talk a little bit more about the training that the parents go through? So you have this person out in rural Wisconsin somewhere, let's say. It doesn't have to be rural Wisconsin. If you're listening and you're in Madison, Milwaukee, you can call parent to parent too, just using it as an example. But when they connect with that more seasoned parent who's just on the road even a little bit more than they are, how do you train that parent to support?
So our trainings cover like self-reflection. So during our training, we share a bit of our story, and we do that for a couple of different reasons. We share and we think about all of the different ways we share our stories. We share our stories for legislators, right? Or we share our story when our kids are going to school and we talk to the teacher. But the purpose of sharing a story when you're in the training and you're thinking about how am I going to support another parent is to really think about where you began your journey and where another parent might be on their journey. So we reflect as the parents are sharing their stories to be able to be aware of where we are in the journey, where we've been in the journey, so that we can relate to another parent in that journey, and where we ended up. And that's kind of an important piece. We spend a long time doing that. We also think about when we're listening to other people share their stories, what are those skills we already have to listen and to listen well. So the other part of the training is how do we listen? And that's hugely important because we're not taught to listen. We don't grow up learning the skills to be a really good, active, and supportive listener. We're usually thinking about what can I say next in this conversation, or something you say might shoot me off in a different direction, and now I'm not really listening. But actually listening is really hard work, and it takes quiet space, it takes energy, and it takes compassion and an open heart to really listen to what somebody else is and reflect what they're feeling. So active listening, supportive listening is more than just hearing. It's really listening for meaning. What is this person saying to me? We learn about open-ended questions, reflective listening skills, all of those things that help a parent feel like when I'm sharing my story and you can reflect back to me what you think you heard and tell that to me, I feel like I've been heard and I've been understood. And there's power in that empathy. There's power that happens when somebody listens to me and listens well, just like my story with the Leleche League. Suddenly I feel like I've been heard. And there's kind of a growth that happens when you feel you've been heard. You're no longer stuck there. You're ready to move to discovery and looking for new direction. Once you feel that you've been heard by another person who gets it. So
Oh man, we could go on and on about being heard.
Yeah.
Is just
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, as a parent of a child with special health care needs, that is just so important because so many times we go through and people offer their wonderful suggestions for our entire life. Of, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Maybe you should do this. I
Right.
think this is a problem. I think this. Instead of listening to what I'm
Right.
trying to say, is people are constantly trying to solve the problem. And
Right.
I don't feel heard when somebody is trying to solve me.
Right, right. We're always listening for that. Like I know what would work for me, so I know what would work for you. But when you
Yes.
really listen to somebody else and help them find their own right answer, that's we discovered that during the training too. What's somebody else's own right answer, and how do you help them get to that right answer? Because telling another person what you think their right answer is really doesn't create relationship.
Yeah. Totally.
It's kind of the opposite. But when you listen to somebody, really open up and understand what they're saying, you can help them move to the next place, you know, by using some of those wonderful questions like, wow, what have you thought of trying? Or where do you think you might find that answer? You know, because then we're finding our own right answer to that. So we really take a lot of time when we're doing the training for parents to learn the skills to be really a supportive listener. And oftentimes, Tim, those relationships turn into lifelong friendships.
Sure.
It's remarkable. I love the follow-up because I often hear families telling me what a difference this support has made. What a difference.
So you have these trained support parents. Are they, what's the variety of parents that, so if somebody's in there thinking, well, you know, my kid has this rare disease and there's no way I'm going to find me a parent who's experienced my journey. How do you, what sort of parents are in this database? What sort of parents do you train?
So we have an extraordinarily broad database filled with parents. We've been doing the training since 2004. And there's not a lot of matches that we have not found a match for. So we're pretty lucky that way. But the one point I would make before I tell you about the national organization is that when we talk about children with special health care needs, I'm a mom and I'm a mom of a child that's older. So I have that past experience of feeling like, well, does mental health really fit into the definition? You know, does asthma, it's not really a whole lot. What about these rare diseases? You might not have those in the databases. We think about children with special health care needs being a child that will receive services that are beyond what their typically developing peers will receive. And that's broad. That's broad. It doesn't even need to have a diagnosis. So I like to share that right up front. So when we think about matching, if there's a match that I can't find in my database, I'll connect with people like you, Tim, our regional centers, to see if there's a wonderful resource parent that we might have in the state, and I'll connect with all of my other partners. But I'm also an alliance member for Parent to Parent USA. And through that alliance membership, I am connected to all of the other states that have statewide parent-to-parent programs through a couple of different listservs. And one of those listservs is the matching listserv. So I can confidentially, without giving parent name or demographics, I can put it in there. I'm looking for a match for a mom who has a child with this. Does anybody have one? And because we're all part of this alliance, I know that all of the other programs have strived to do the best practices, right? The trained support parents, the timeliness on the match and the follow-up. So I try to make a match as best I can locally, and when that doesn't happen, it's a national match. And I tell parents that when I'm taking a call with the parent and I'm writing down information and I think, I'm not sure we're going to be able to support this, I often ask, if I can't find a match in our state through our database or my partners, would it be okay with you if I asked on the national listserv? And parents are absolutely fine with that.
So you end up with this whole team of parents that have a similar experience, but not exactly the same experience. And that's where empathy comes in. Is empathy isn't
Yeah,
necessarily
right.
experiencing exactly the same thing, but I can identify your emotion. I can relate it to an emotion that I have that's really similar, and I can join you in that emotion.
Mhm.
And so you have these empathetic, trained listening parents that, because they've gone through the training, they want to help. It's not like you recruited making these parents be support parents. These are families that want to help other families.
Right.
So
They
then how does, yeah, they self-identify as helpers. So how do other people then get connected to these helper parents? How does somebody get matched?
Right. So there's, I get referrals from all over the state. The regional centers have been my #1 go-to, but I also have other professionals that are making referrals for families. And the way that they do that is they go to my website, www.p2pwi.org. On
I
there,
will get
there's a,
that. I will get that up into the when we have this posted on YouTube. I'll make sure that's in the description.
okay,
So if you missed it,
so
don't worry. Just look at the description and it'll be there.
it'll be there. Click on Get Connected. It pulls up a form, and the form asks for the name, the contact, best time to reach. And if you're making a referral, it asks if you would like a follow-up. And if you would, then you
Oh.
leave your name and your contact. And once we make the match, I can follow up and tell you that the match was made. For confidentiality purposes, I can't tell you anything further than that, but I can at least let you know that I followed through on my part and the parent is receiving support. So 99% of my parents who are coming to my program have been, either they've found it themselves and gone to the website and referred themselves, or providers who are working with families will do a referral for a family with permission. That's how they get connected. Or they can call, or they can fax, or they can email. All of that is out there.
But
Sometimes
most
we
of the time
have,
it's that contact.
it is. Sometimes we have people on Facebook that will send us a message and say, boy, I'd really appreciate that. And we can give them a call that way as well.
Reminds me to make sure that I get the Facebook address for parent to parent as well to put in the description.
You bet.
If you leave it to me to go search for it, I give you a 50% chance that it's going to happen. If you send it to me, I give you 100% that it's going to happen.
I will.
So it sounds relatively easy that anybody who's with a parent, whether they're a professional or another parent or a neighbor, and they may not have the exact experience. Maybe they don't have a child with special health care needs at all, but they're a friend to this parent, and this parent's like, I'd really like to talk to someone who's been down this road, who walked a journey similar to mine. And right then and there, you could just out the internet, however you want to connect to the internet, and fill out that referral for the Get Connected form. And then you're going to respond to them.
Right. And protocol says we respond within 24 to 48 hours. And we really work hard to meet that. We don't always, but we really work hard to call the parent in a real timely way, because, once you've decided you want support, you're ready. You're ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
What's really cool about the program is oftentimes when we're doing trainings, I will send out the invite, and the parents who have received support want to come back and be the support parent. So it's that full
cycle. So it's a loop. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how we get a lot of our trained support parents. And we also get them from our partners who identify them as well.
And so if somebody is listening to this going, you know what, I have had a very unique journey and I have learned a few things I would like to share with other parents in a empathetic listening type way. How do you find out about becoming a trained parent?
I have an invite list. They're all of our trainings are always posted on our website. So we have 2 more trainings coming up, actually 3, but one of them is with the Down Syndrome Association, where we do the Parents First Call program, matching families with parents who are around that time of birth. Either they've given birth or they just found out they're going to have a child with with Down syndrome, we make those matches. So I also facilitate that program as well, bringing that all into the fray. Yeah.
So
Did
the
I
main
answer that
way,
question?
yeah, so the main way basically is to go to the website, you list the trainings there, and right now they're all virtual. The ones that
Right.
are open to everyone. You don't have to drive
Every
anywhere.
When they're face to face, we have to do them regionally and invite parents
Right.
from that area. But now that it's virtual, somebody from Bayfield can come and somebody from Rock County can come, and we're all there together. Yep. It's a easier format. But I do really like the face to face. So I look forward to the day when we can all gather again.
So let's move a little bit from Parent to Parent of Wisconsin and Parent to Parent USA. I don't know if it's Parent to Parent of America, Parent to Parent USA.
You got it.
Okay, so Parent to Parent USA. I know that you have also traveled to other countries, obviously to other states, but also to other countries. This parent support is not just an American thing. It's not a Wisconsin thing. It's not an American thing. It's a parent thing. It's a family thing, which also strikes me. Yeah, it's worldwide, which also strikes me that beyond just that parent matching, you might be able to lend us some insights into what have you learned about the importance of parents supporting other parents, whether it's through your program or any other program. Is there anything you've picked up along the way to suggest that this matters?
I think the biggest thing, well, there's research out there, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I think parent testimony, if that's a word I can use here, saying, boy, this support made the biggest difference to me. And that doesn't diminish the fact that families receive incredible support through the medical field, through providers, through social work. All couldn't do it without them. But this kind of support really changes the trajectory, I think, of the family and helps them to be a little bit more positive in their journey because they've met somebody else who's been there. And what we know, the research tells us that just came out a few years back with Elizabeth Blackburn. She won a Nobel Prize for it, studying the chromosomes and chronic stress, chronic sorrow. That's the stuff that families feel. And it's lifelong, not just because my child's little now I have it. It's lifelong. My daughter's in her 30s and I still, from time to time, bump into that she'll never be typical kind of a thing. So what was found in this is that on the ends of your chromosomes, those little crosses, are little like shoelace plastics. You know, it's like the caps on the shoelaces. The caps are called telomeres. And as we age, those telomeres become shorter. But when we age and we have chronic stress or chronic sorrow that happens in people who are raising children with special needs, they diminish faster. So there's a faster progression of that telomere. But what they find is that parents who receive and benefit from support, peer support, stops that rapid progression because you're eliminating some of that stress, and it actually tends to rebuild some of the damage that's been there. So, you know, we know that parent to parent is beneficial at the cellular level. You know, it's that mindfulness stuff. It's that connecting with another human. It's all of that. So we know the benefits are there.
And it goes back to that being heard, being seen, being listened to, being validated. No, you're not failing. You're doing everything that you can do.
Oftentimes, you know, we have families surrounding us, and they can be the best supporters in the whole world, but what they lack in that support is the ability to be empathetic because they haven't experienced what we're experiencing. And when you find that other person that's actually walked that walk and has had that similar experience, there's just this magic that I always say there's magic that happens in the matches. Yep. And when that magic happens and people tell me about it, it makes, this has been an incredible journey. I'm so grateful to have been able to create this program and to work this program. So
That
yeah,
is,
what a
that is amazing. I forgot that it had been so ongoing. That I had totally forgot how long that you have been doing this, Robin. This has been a passion for a while.
Yep. And you talked about international travel. I was on the national board for about 10 years, creating that national program. But because of that, and because of the newness of my program, I was able to create a program that encompassed all of the evidence-based best practices. So I always brag about that. And I'm one of 3 in the United States that can brag about that. But because my passion was the best practices, I was able to help other states create their programs and share what I've learned and the evidence and my training curriculum. I also did that internationally with folks in Denmark and folks in, where did I go? You know where I went.
was thinking Denmark. No, I knew you wanted Denmark. I had
Netherlands.
Denmark. I want to go to Denmark someday.
Folks in the Netherlands. We have a program in New Zealand. We have a program in Guam. We have, before me, people traveled to Dubai and helped, and Siberia. So yeah, it's there's nothing like connecting with another person, right, on that level.
Now, I do want to make sure that our listeners are clear that this isn't just for moms.
Right.
You have trained dads.
Yes, Tim, we do have trained dads. I make matches for dads when they want to talk to another dad who's had that similar experience, because that kind of support is, I think there's a difference between the maternal and the paternal support that happens. So yes, we have dads in the database. We have grandparents in the database.
Wow.
I've got a couple of folks in there that experienced the disability themselves. Adults with disabilities. I have caregivers in the database. So there's a big range of how we can make that match for people. Sometimes it's a grandparent saying, I really want to talk to another person who has a child like this so I can understand, so I can be more supportive to my children as they raise their child.
And I also love the fact, as you talked about before, that you're not doing this in a silo. This program doesn't exist on its own. You have partnerships across the state, and you're going to be able to refer those parents that maybe at this point, yes, parent-to-parent match is good, but I also think you need to know about the regional center or Well Badger, is that you're part of a system of care that we have in Wisconsin. And I think that's really cool that you're just not out there flying solo.
So all of our trained support parents are trained to know that the regional centers are the place to really get parents connected, because I think that's the doorway to everything else that's available to families. But also, when I'm talking with a family who's looking for a match, I tell them about the regional center, and I also include a link in an email. Once I make the match, I send an email to the new parent saying, I've made a match for you. Your support parent's name is Betty. Here's the regional center website for your area. So we've already talked about it, and now they have something they can click on and go there, because we want to support families, and we want to make sure that they have access to everything that they're capable of getting access to support them well, to help their children live their best lives.
I love that. So anything else that you would like to say about parent support or parent to parent?
It was a dream, and I'm so happy that I could live it. Yeah. And I thank you for inviting me today, Tim. You are a strong champion of the parent to parent program, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, in full disclosure, I am a trained support parent.
Right.
So I've been through the training. I recommend the training. I've been matched. I've been able to talk to a few dads over the years. And it's been a great experience for me as well. So thank you. Thank you for being here, Robin. Thanks for everything that you're doing. If you want to hold on so that I can do a more personal goodbye after I stop the recording, that would be fantastic. But thanks a lot, Robin, and get me all those links, and we'll get them into the description, and we'll get you out onto YouTube. Thank you so much.